Welcome to another captivating episode of Whispers of the Womb, the podcast that embarks on a profound journey of self-discovery and the essence of health and wellness. I'm your host, Suzanne Lawson, and today we have a remarkable guest join us from Seattle, Washington in the US. Megan D'Angelo is here to explore the intricate path of navigating sensitivity and thriving with ADHD. Megan is no stranger to the world of ADHD, having spent the last 12 years as a dedicated mental health therapist. She's noticed a common thread among her clients, a journey that led them to discover their own ADHD. Recognizing the need for specialized guidance, Megan made a natural transition from therapy to coaching for women who, like her clients, find themselves in the whirlwind of ADHD. In her own words, Megan's mission is to transform the lives of women who felt overwhelmed to the point of tears in the shower, wondering how to manage the chaos that life can bring. Her goal? To help them finally create space for that much needed bubble bath, whether that means savouring a cup of coffee in peace or indulging in a weekend getaway with friends. Megan even offers a transformative group coaching program called Hectic to Happy. As a therapist turned coach, Megan's journey has been one of self-discovery, education and enlightenment. Today she shares her wealth of knowledge and experience with us, shedding light on the world of ADHD and sensitivity and providing valuable insights into the path to thriving. So stay tuned for an enlightening conversation that may just change the way you approach your own well-being. Megan is joining us to discuss navigating sensitivity and thriving with ADHD. So Megan, it's great to have you join the Whispers of the Womb podcast. So I'd love for you to share with the listeners about your business and what it is that you do.
Hi, Suzanne. It's so good to be here, and I've been looking forward to this conversation all week. So, a little bit about what I do here. I'm an ADHD coach for women. I've been a mental health therapist for the past 12 years and have noticed that, my caseload all went to people with ADHD. And so I thought a natural transition to backing off of doing therapy was to turn this all these skills and all this knowledge that I have into coaching for women because I do so much of it. And it's just been like a joy to begin exploring and helping people and seeing them kind of grow and really learn about themselves, but and also be able to implement tools and change. One of the things that really made me do what I'm doing right now, wait, hold on. Da, 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 da. Okay, edit that out. Uh, so my job is to take women who go from crying in the shower, asking themselves how the hell do I manage all of my life, and being able to make time to finally be able to take the bubble bath that they need. Sometimes that bubble bath is just a cup of coffee. Sometimes it's a weekend away with friends. I have a group coaching program called Hectic to Happy.
Nice. Like it.
Yeah, it really encompasses the whole essence of what I'm trying to do here is take our lives from chaotic to calm. And then I also do one-on-one coaching for women who need something a little bit more specific for themselves.
That sounds great. So thanks for sharing that. So your Hectic to Happy course, how long is that for? Is that a group? Is that and how long is that for?
Yeah, it's a group coaching program, and the program itself is for 12 weeks. What I have people do then is I like to keep it about that length because anything longer, us ADHDers, we kind of get kind of start losing motivation, and I want to keep everybody engaged. And I have a private Facebook group for those people who are in there so they can all chat and get to know each other and build sort of this community that is always helpful when we are struggling with anything. And then after the coaching program, people get to stay in the Facebook group for as long as they want to. So they can always have that community there. We will have like body doubling times, which, if you don't know what that is, that means that like I'm on camera, everybody else is on camera, or just logged into a Zoom call. And it actually just helps us be more productive and hold ourselves accountable. And that is something that's just an added bonus, nothing, extra to do that. And that can be for all of eternity if they want to use that resource.
That's excellent. So that's like keeping them motivated and just keeping them part of that tribe and connecting with mindful. I'm presuming this is just for women, yeah?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, only for women. Probably, everybody in that group is going to be 25 and up,
right.
because most of the people that I understand their experiences are us, people who have been late diagnosed with ADHD.
Yeah, yeah, got you. So that leads me on to the next question, actually. So what led you, can you share with the listeners a little bit about yourself and what led you to become an ADHD coach? You've mentioned earlier about your substantive role that you do, and that was kind of guiding that light. But can you just give us a little bit of idea of how you got into this personally, from a personal point of view?
Yeah, right. The best coaches have personal experience, right? So here we are. I'm 27 years old. I had just had my baby, and I was really struggling with like postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety that wasn't diagnosed until 7 months after he was born. And so I'm one of those high functioning, try to keep it together all the time people
Yeah,
that eventually I couldn't keep it together anymore. And I had this knowledge that like something is not right here, something is going on. And I was so overwhelmed for trying to take care of him that managing myself, looking back, was like the only thing that I could do at that point. So when you add another person, like everything went downhill. Like, and being an overachiever, I had like quit my job and started a private practice at the same time, and like done all of these things. And looking back on that now, I can really see like my own ADHD experience from childhood that was there, that nobody ever knew I was struggling with, that I didn't know I was struggling with. I muscled my way through college, um, by like using color coordinated hourly schedules in order to get studying done. I had to have like absolute silence. I took a lot of, not took a lot of caffeine. I drank a lot of caffeine, which is something that we typically use to try to regulate ourselves. Um, but I also have the superpower. I can like go to sleep also if I have 12 cups of coffee. It's fine. Um, um, but muscling through this whole time, and then really through my time as a therapist, being able to understand, like, and educate myself about all of this, everything became so enlightening. And I've been through that grief period of like, oh my God, if somebody would have helped. Like, it was so lonely, so isolated for so long that I was lost, and I was overachieving, and I was a perfectionist, and I was a people pleaser. And those are the only ways that I got through my life. And then another human comes in and messes everything up
Yeah,
for the better.
and what I guess, well, yeah, should have been a joyous occasion, a wonderful experience, just became so overwhelming and kind of took that joy away, I guess. for you as
Oh,
a human, as a mother, as a young woman? That whole joyous moment would have just been lost in that chaos.
and it was. You're absolutely right. I mean, I had serious issues connecting with my son. I was not one of those moms that was oozing over her baby initially. I was like, what the hell do I do with this thing? Like, and it was overwhelming. And it really, had I known all of these things I know now, I wonder if my experience would have been different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that, because I know that must be
Absolutely.
it must be quite hard to, like, go back in that time, because you were probably a very different person with different beliefs, different feelings, and that must be quite hard to go back in time.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But I'm glad there's been so much in my life that's changed since then. And, when I was on the path to finally getting diagnosed, my own therapist at that point in time was just like, we're all little ADHD. I don't really think that this is an issue. And I was like, felt so dismissed at that point in time. Like,
Yeah.
I trusted this woman. She was getting me through the death of my own mother. She was getting me through the divorce I was going through at the time. Let's not mention all of those other things that were going on. Um, and I just felt hurt, and then I went to another doctor, and the another doctor was like, "Maybe you should just start exercising and eating better and lose weight." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, I know this in my heart."
Yeah, it's like it's so frustrating when people say that, isn't it? It's like, well, just get sleep, just eat well, exercise, and then you'll be fine. I remember a nurse saying that to me when I was diagnosed with pre-diabetes, and I now know that that would have been perimenopause, which actually
Uh-huh.
quite now it infuriates me. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, I don't know what to do. And they said, oh, we've got this specialist nurse that can talk you through and guide you on what to do. I was like, okay. I waited 3 weeks for an appointment, and I was like really excited to like learn about, what can I do to put this right. And she said, well, all you need to do is just Google it and eat well, sleep well, and get moving. And I came out of the doctor's surgery. I was absolutely furious. Like, so angry.
Yeah, you felt that too, that like deep betrayal of doctors we're supposed to trust
Yeah,
here. And
yeah.
a lot of them are doing the best they can and they don't have the information, but some are not.
And that's okay. But then when you're being told, oh yeah, we've got an expert who can help you get through this, it was
Hmm.
like, wow, really? Like, yeah. And I don't know about you, but for me, that whole despair kind of, where you're trying to get help and you're asking for help, it's a bit like walking through toffee. Like, you just every day is just sort of grinding,
Hmm.
isn't it? Where you just feel that, well, utter despair.
Despair, absolutely. And you don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, and you're just like, where am I going? You said coffee, and I'm like, it's dark and you can't see in front of you. And,
Yeah.
there's something going on. You can't put your finger on it. And nobody else can either.
Yeah. And I know when we first met, we talked about sensitivity, because I know this can, really affect women during the menopause. And we actually both shared a similar dislike, which we actually had a bit of a chuckle at. And every time I now create my fire in my log burner, I think of you, Megan, because I actually do wear surgical gloves to create a fire in my home. And I'll share with the listeners why me and Megan just have an absolute dislike for the feel of newspapers. We just can't
Ugh,
stand the feeling of newspapers on our fingers. So I just wondered if you could share with the listeners, Megan, what other areas of sensitivity might there be for women, or what should they be aware of to take into account, menopause, because there is a lot of links with ADHD, and obviously if you haven't been diagnosed, or even if you have been diagnosed, once you're going through the menopause, that ADHD can potentially be really heightened.
Oh, yes. Yes. I actually had somebody message me a week or two ago, and she was like, "How do you tell if it's ADHD or if it's menopause?"
Right.
And I was like, honestly, the way to tell is if you were diagnosed as a kid. But if you're one of those people who was diagnosed or hasn't been diagnosed and feels that like it is just this heightened
Yeah.
sense of dysfunction in your life. ADHD is a neurological condition. Like, it is nothing to do with you or anything that you will really have any control over initially. Your brain is wired differently.
Right. Yeah.
And menopause is going to mess all of that up with all the hormone fluctuations and everything that happens there. One of the most important things for women with ADHD to remember is that their hormones are a very, very valid part of symptoms that we experience.
Hmm.
So when you are in your, I can never say this word right, luteal, basically the week before your cycle starts
Yeah. Yeah.
is,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
typically it's the worst time for your
Yeah.
focusing because if
Hmm.
you are having a cycle, then your estrogen is dropping at that point in time,
Yeah.
and it's going to lead to more difficulties with concentration. Estrogen and concentration are,
They're huge, aren't they? Massive.
yes,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
they're completely correlated. So, and then the week after, if you've had a cycle in the follicular phase, is the best time to really focus and work on things because this is when estrogen levels are going up. And you probably feel your best about the week after that. If you're going through menopause, imagine how, you know, upside down and turned around all of this is going to be.
Yeah.
You don't know what phase you're in any day when you wake up, right?
And I think that's why I know I don't bleed anymore. I've had an oophorectomy, which is a removal of the ovaries and the tubes. So, and I haven't bled for about 8 years because I had an endometrial ablation about 8 years ago to stop the heavy bleeding.
Mhm.
But every month, I still have symptoms. I still have those brain symptoms. I still have those like cravings and irritability and anger. And so for me, when you said there about the luteal and the follicular um, sides of it, it's about connecting with your body, isn't it? And it's about going, okay, I'm in this moment. Do you know what? I'm just going to rest. Obviously, within reason, people have got children, it's difficult. But I'm not going to put so much on myself. I'm not going to demand that I do this, this, and this. I'm only going to do this. And then really just take a step back and nurture yourself and just give yourself that permission to just relax and just let those things go. Like the bathroom can be cleaned next week when you've got more energy.
You are speaking my language. This is part of what I coach on all the time is that we have to have this like deep compassion for ourselves in understanding that like we are not superwoman. Like we do need rest. We do need to balance and to look at like how am I today? Where am I at today? What can I do today? The dust bunnies will be there tomorrow, I promise. Like they're not going anywhere. And
Yeah.
it's learning how to let that go. That is so hard. And that's where the coaching comes into play for sure, is like learning how to rest. I have to teach people to rest. How do you do that?
Yeah, especially when, because women are, they just want everything done, don't they? That's what
Oh,
that's what we're there for, you know. We're these like nest makers, and it's like, but you do have to have that little word to yourself, and that little being saying it's okay, just stop.
mhm. I have nope days where you come in and you're just like,
Nope,
wake up in the morning and nope,
nope,
nothing is going to get done today.
I love
Like,
it.
I'll try to sit and do therapy notes
Nope,
or,
yeah,
other things. Nope,
nope,
not happening.
yeah,
And you know what I do? I rest. I just stop trying to do things
hmm,
and do what feels right for me at that point in time. Usually it's taking a nap or, if that's available to me, or just, putting everything off to the next day because it'll be
yeah.
there.
Yeah, it's still going to be there, and I know for me, if I do that, then when it comes to doing something that I love, say it's like being creative or nature, it then gives me that ability to be more creative or go for a longer walk or enjoy the walk more because I've got more energy. I haven't pushed myself to the max to get to that point where now I'm really suffering.
Mhm. And that's what we do as women with ADHD. Like, we are just pushing and pushing and pushing until we cannot push anymore.
Yeah,
That's why I went like hectic to happy because it is complete chaos here for us.
yeah.
And eventually it stops being able to work. And it takes a lot of internal work and just learning to be able to handle those things.
So we've given the listeners quite a few tips, but what three top tips would you sort of say to our listeners if they're listening today about, how can, even if you haven't been diagnosed with ADHD and you're listening to this and you're thinking, God, that's me. That is exactly me. That's how I live my life. What
Mhm.
three tips would you give the listeners on what they can do right now to start to change their life and get a grip, as it were?
Stop white knuckling life, where you're holding on so tight you can't feel your hands anymore, right?
Yeah.
I do really quick want to touch on the sensitivity piece in the newspaper thing that we
Oh, yeah,
talked
yeah,
about
yeah, yeah.
earlier. Yeah, and so you said sensitivity and like we're talking about like sensory issues. And this can be for anybody going through life. But when you have ADHD, it's heightened. And so it's anything that you're like seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, or hearing. I get really overloaded with sound.
Hmm.
A lot of the time, I have earplugs that I wear around the house
Hmm.
and they work out wonderfully. And my son and his friend were playing on these really loud, really obnoxious toys that would have made me like cry in the bathroom before.
Yeah.
And I had the headphones in and it was tolerable. And I was able to communicate. It was so much better. But also noting that, like, you've got sensory issues. I do want to say that, like, when you have ADHD, you are actually more likely also to struggle with autoimmune disorders, endometriosis. I did a whole bunch of research on this before our meeting, and the amount of information out there of like the correlation between having ADHD and having endometriosis is so strong that they're like, check, see if you have either of these things. If you're having trouble in any way, shape, or form, this could be part of what's going on.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Hmm. I mean, I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but listening to what you've just said there, just this weekend on Sunday, me and my partner went to a shopping mall, and we went into a coffee shop, and for some reason we were both standing up and neither of us were navigating to sit down. and we had the dogs, and then I just said, I don't want to be in here, but I couldn't understand why. And I was like, let's go outside. And we went outside, and then I went, oh, it was so loud. It was so noisy with all the people talking. And then, when people scrape chairs. Ooh.
Oh,
Yeah. So we sat outside. It was cold, but it was a dry day, and we still got a coffee, and we sat outside, and it was lovely because there just wasn't any of that noise, that unwanted noise that
mm,
just, yeah, heightens everything for me.
yeah. And that, I mean, as women, we tend to like dismiss feelings like that. A
Yep.
lot of the time, especially when I was younger, I would have sat in a coffee shop
Yep.
and been like,
Me
oh, it's
too.
cold outside.
Mhm. Mhm.
But when you can have that compassion for yourself, be like, oh, this isn't going to work for me. And it sounds like you've got a supportive partner too, which is really helpful.
Yep.
Y'all, outside was way better. Yeah, the lights are too loud. The people, there's too
Mhm.
much going on. Yeah,
And I don't
all of
even, I,
that.
I think even my dogs have a little bit of ADHD, to be honest, because I don't think they were very happy.
They were overstimulated.
Stimulated. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, like when dogs get really excited, they like shake afterwards, or they like, do their little like,
Yeah,
you
that
know,
little.
their little thing that they do. That is regulating for them. They're regulating their nervous system and going back to kind of their preset mark when they're doing
Ah,
that.
ah,
So that's why
interesting.
shaking is really good for us as well.
Ah,
Like moving your arms and trying to like get it out of your body. That's one of the tips that I would recommend always, is that like find ways to regulate yourself, which means, that work for you. For me, shaking, like, moving my hands, moving my body, just jumping up and down, anything along those lines can really just help me reset.
and that's kind of made me think there, like if I ever have an episode like that, I hadn't even realized I do this. But if I have like an episode like that where I'm like irritable or and I don't know why, or I'm like, oh, the lights are bright, I do a lot of like stretching. So I put my hands up in the air and then I twist around. So it's the same kind of thing, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily shake, but I might now. But yeah, so I put my arms in the air and I twist to the right, twist to the left, or if I'm like just in the house, I might just do a forward fold. And so I kind of linked it to yoga, but now I'm thinking, no, it's just getting that out and regulating, isn't it? Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
That is what yoga is, right? Yoga is
Yeah.
teaching you how to do that too.
Hmm.
But it is, yeah, it's regulating. And there's all sorts of, things you can do and things you don't realize you're doing probably to regulate your system all the time. So
Yeah.
making sure that you have some really good coping skills to manage these things is going to be essential here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Google, do whatever you need to do, get a coach, learn how to work with yourself here, because every ADHD is completely unique. Just like everybody with endometriosis, there's, some similarity, like base similarities, but then everybody is different. They have
Yeah.
this or that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And everyone's pain's different, everyone's physical pain, everyone's mental pain. But because me and you have both been sufferers of each of these, we know exactly what it's like. We've been there. We've gone through all of this self discovery and this kind of like, what on earth is wrong with me? To know
Mhm.
that we know how to help you. We are here to be able to do that effectively and in a much more efficient manner than you having to go and find out for yourself, really. We're here
Mhm.
waiting.
Yeah. Yeah, the other tip there is totally related to that, and it's asking for help.
Yeah. Hmm.
Like,
Absolutely.
you are not alone in whatever you're going through. There is somebody out there who gets you, and there is somebody who can help. It is a journey sometimes, but you have to ask. And we tend to not ask for help, especially when we're suffering with something that is invisible.
Yeah. And I think as well with both of these, with ADHD and endometriosis, yes, they are they need to be diagnosed, if you like, by a professional. And so people tend to think, well, the professionals know it all. They are the ones that I need to listen to. And yes, you do to a degree. And yes, we need professionals as part of that process. But actually, professionals who diagnose aren't actually living with this every day. And that's something that you really need to, listen to your body, listen to what you're feeling, and like you say, ask for help.
Mhm. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I've actually never been formally diagnosed. Didn't go through any, like, psychological testing or anything like that. I had a lovely psychiatrist that basically gave me a sheet and was like, "Fill this out," and I was like, "I feel really attacked after filling this out because it's all me." And the crazy thing initially was that, you know, when you have ADHD, if you're willing to try meds, try them because you'll know right away if they work or not, which is
Yeah,
amazing. Like, instant 2 days in, you should be able to know if it's a stimulant,
yeah,
and it's amazing when that happens. I'm not able to take medication nowadays, makes my blood pressure go too high, and I wanna live. So
yeah,
so I manage other ways. So, but, like you said, finding a professional is really important.
yeah,
And the other tip here is that to try to make things that you're doing more enjoyable, like them, create new ways of doing things that maybe aren't in the ordinary here,
yep,
but whatever works. That's been my therapist like mantra for a long time. And it's my mantra also as an ADHD coach, like whatever works. If you have to listen to, heavy rock metal in order to do the dishes, great. Do it.
yeah. I know one of my things that I do, and I've only just started probably in the last 5 years. So when I do my laundry, I don't sort it out in colors, like whites,
Boo.
darks. That was the way I was taught by my mum, but I hardly have any white clothes anyway. So that's like, it doesn't really, and it always messes with my head when everything comes out the washing machine. So I do all of my underwear and nightwear is one load. And then I do all of my tops or dresses, and then all of my trousers or gym bottoms. So then when everything comes out, I know, right, all I'm dealing with here is trousers and bottoms. And then I can, and it just, for me, it's just so easy to just work it out, figure out where everything's going to be hung. And then when it's underwear, I sit down at the dining table and I just put some nice music on and just take my time so I'm not like getting stressed about everything being all tangled up.
Mhm. Yeah, you're telling me that, and I'm like, "That's genius." And this is why the community is so important, right? So we can share all these things with each other. Like, that is such a great idea. I'm like, "I've never thought about that before." But yeah, we don't sort whites out in my house. A lot of people choose not to fold their underwear, just throw it in there and it's there. If that drives you crazy, don't do that. But, it's about understanding what works for you, not what you've been told or taught about what should or shouldn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you could teach one wellness tip to your clients for the rest of your career, what tip would it be? Based on everything we've talked about, I think I know where you're going to go with this one.
Yep, I was like, well, this is going to be a repeat of this, but that it can't be said enough. Rest is productive.
Yep.
Rest is honoring ourselves, and that is the only way that we recharge, really, is through rest. And rest can be, does not have to be laying horizontal on your bed, but it needs to be recharging.
Yep. I mean, I always tell this to all my yoga students, and I always have done. If you have only got time for a 20-minute yoga class, that's brilliant. But always try and make 20% of whatever you do rest. So in yoga, we call that shavasana, which is corpse pose. So
Mhm.
if it's 20 minutes, then you want to be doing at least 2 minutes rest. And that gives you that permission to just connect with your body. And it's a really good way as well of I lie there sometimes and I think, I wasn't really looking forward to this practice, but now I feel like it's really helped my shoulder, or it's really helped my hip, or it's really helped my brain, whatever that might be. I did a class today and it was like a 15-minute meditation at the end of it, which was just a body scan. It was just kind of allow the toes to relax, allow the ankles to relax. Oh my God, I felt so productive afterwards. I got so much done for the rest of the day just by taking that hour for myself.
Mhm.
So it was like 40 minutes movement, stretching, and we did a lot of twisting. And then that lovely, beautiful shavasana at the end. And that rest made me so much more productive.
I know Shavasana well, and that is my favorite part always of yoga practice.
I used to laugh at my students when they would go, oh, and I'd go, right, let's get back into Shavasana. And they'd be like, oh, it's amazing. I'm like, you can do this at any time at home. Anytime you like, you can get into Shavasana and just relax.
Mhm. And it takes work to learn how to relax.
It does. Yeah.
So you won't be good at it right away. If I'm saying rest is productive, just know that it takes time and practice, right?
Yeah. And the best way, I think, if you are new to learning how to rest, is to, like you say, like tune into your favorite type of music. If, like you're saying, rock music makes you relax, then listen to rock music.
Mhm.
Or tune into a guided meditation, listen to someone actually just, it doesn't even need to be like talking about your body. It could be, I know I listen to some of these stories, these bedtime stories on some of the apps now where they're just, and it's funny because that kind of takes us back to our childhood. Like I used to have a bedtime story read for me when I was little, and I'm sure some of our listeners did too. And even if it's an adult story that you're listening to, it's a lovely way to just allow your body and everything to just relax and just immerse yourself in that story.
Yeah, when I discovered those bedtime stories, I was like, "This is gold." You know, I, like a lot of us, have trouble sometimes turning my head off, turning my brain off at the end of the day, and those stories are such a great way for me to just focus in on something else that is going on, and the magic of that too is that your brain cannot do 2 things at once. We
Yeah,
think we can multitask, we can't.
you can't.
It's not it's task switching that we do, and so if you are listening to the story, you can't, literally can't think about all the other things.
Yeah,
You can only think about the other things if you stop listening to the story.
yeah, yeah. Which is a great tip.
Mhm.
Well, thank you,
Thank you.
Megan. Is there anything else that you want to share with the listeners before we wrap up?
Yeah, I would really just encourage everybody to continue advocating for themselves because we can't do it enough here. And, know that you know your body better than anybody else. And you know your brain better than anybody else. No one can tell you you do or don't have something. Something is going on,
Yeah,
and you know it.
that's brilliant advice. And, and like you said right at the beginning of this podcast episode, is to reach out and talk to other people and find your tribe. Once you find your tribe, it can be just the most cathartic way to heal your body and your brain, and then learn to live a life of wellness. And we can all live with, things that are not that right in our lives, but with some support, it can be much simpler.
Yes, much more tolerable for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Megan. It's been wonderful to have you on this episode today. And for our listeners, we will be putting lots of links in the bottom so that you can contact Megan if you are struggling with ADHD or you need to reach out to her directly. So thank you, Megan.
Thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you, dear listeners, for joining us on this enlightening journey with Megan. Megan's insights into navigating sensitivity and thriving with ADHD have been truly eye-opening. It's clear that her passion for transforming lives shines through in her work, and we're grateful for her sharing her wisdom with us. As we conclude this episode of Whispers of the Womb, I encourage you to reflect on the valuable lessons we've learned today. Megan's story reminds us that self-discovery and personal growth are journeys worth embarking on. Remember, your path to well-being is unique, and there is hope even in the whirlwind of life's challenges. The Wellness to Womb programme has been meticulously crafted to empower women in navigating the inevitable challenges that arises as hormones fluctuate, bodies evolve, and minds undergo transformations throughout life's journey. It is an opportunity to cultivate a life of well-being that you truly deserve as you gracefully embrace the natural process of age. If you found today's episode inspiring, please consider sharing it with others who might benefit from Megan's insights. And as always, stay tuned for more thought-provoking conversations on our journey of self-discovery and wellness. Until next time, take care of yourselves and continue exploring the whispers of your own womb. My name is Suzanne Lawson, and you can contact me on my website at www.wellnesstowomb.com.